I have some incredible video for you today. It would be funny if it weren't so scary. CNN's Jim Acosta, while the NRA convention was happening in Houston, Texas, in the same state where 72 hours earlier, we had this horrific shooting in Uvalde, Texas. CNN's Jim Acosta interviewed a board member of the National Rifle Association. That board member is a Republican judge named Phillip Journey, also a former Kansas state senator. Jim Acosta asked, why should an 18-year-old be able to have an AR-15? Why does an 18-year-old need an AR-15? And again, it would be hilarious if it weren't for the fact that these people and this organization were so powerful. Take a look at this historic implosion on live television.
With these mass shootings, it keeps coming back to the AR-15 and similar models. Why do people need an AR-15 anyway?
You know, it's just a semi-automatic rifle. I mean, you know, if you want to be prejudiced about the way it looks. But I was aware of what happened in the '94 semi-automatic firearms ban. And there were rifles of similar function that just didn't look as ugly. They weren't black guns like a Mini 14, Ruger Mini 14.
So I can't help but mention this talking point about there's prejudice against certain weapons based on how they look. They want to almost make it like it's a form of racism. Like you're judging things by their cover, and that you're prejudiced if you look at a weapon and say that's a bad weapon. They want to use the same terms almost as if it were a form of racism. This is a concerted effort that they make to talk about prejudice and discrimination against firearms based on the way they look. Okay, let's continue the meaningless word salad.
And of course, the Ruger Mini 14 was appropriate and the AR-15 was not if it had a bayonet lug or a vertical rear grip. So they designed around
I do want to ask you about the assault weapons ban, but you know, on the AR-15, how is it that an 18-year-old can buy an AR-15 style rifle and have 1,600 rounds of ammo with them like we saw in Uvalde?
Well, he did not have any prior convictions. He didn't have any prior issues that would have kept him from purchasing one. It's my understanding from the news that he purchased it through a firearms dealer. He passed the background check because he didn't have any prior convictions.
Now, of course, this is the problem. If we did the things I suggested, limit these firearms to those 25 plus, require more extensive training, require 2 or 3 letters from adults in the community saying I have no issues with this individual having firearms, require a mental health evaluation. Those things would likely have at least made it more difficult for this individual to get these particular firearms. What this guy's saying is he got them because there was nothing in place that stopped him. Right. Well, but that's the problem. We need to put things in place.
Right. But should an 18-year-old have an AR-15?
That's how he bought it.
Should an 18-year-old have an AR-15? What's he going to do with it?
I don't know. Should an 18-year-old have one in the Army?
Well, they have military training in the Army. This 18-year-old in Uvalde did not have military training. He turned 18 and he went out and bought an AR-15.
Okay.
And the fact is that these kinds of issues...
Did he just call him Ed?
...are far more complicated than whether we remove something from the public. These issues in criminogenics
you can't buy a beer if you're 18. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes.
Violent crime are more complicated than the easy answer. Do you want to know why politicians seems to go to gun control? Because it doesn't cost them any money.
Oh, God. Okay, so listen, completely humiliating. I mean, a complete and total implosion. That being said, the pro-gun people do have an easy answer, which this guy just missed. I don't agree with this answer, but sometimes, you know, when you ask some of these folks this exact question that Jim Acosta is asking, sometimes they go, Jim, I don't need to defend it. It's in the Constitution, period. Now, it's lame. It ignores reality, but it is an answer, which is like, just because you don't like it, Jim, doesn't mean it isn't in the Constitution. It's not about why does an 18-year-old need it. We have a Constitution and a right to bear arms. Now, of course, the counter would be limiting certain guns for certain people, whether because of age or whatever. These are not violations of the Second Amendment. So there is there are rebuttals to the rebuttals for sure. And this entire thing of you're prejudiced against guns because of how they look, they want you to think like it's racism. Now, one bonus here, as you all may know, and we will look at later, Donald Trump danced. He did his dance on stage after speaking to the NRA 3 days after the horrible shooting in Texas. Jim Acosta asked this guy, this NRA board member, about Trump's dancing, and the guy just denies that it happened. And then CNN puts it up on the screen alongside this guy saying Trump didn't dance. And this is what we've been talking about for a long time. It doesn't matter if it's on video, they'll still deny stuff.
In Uvalde. Your group is holding its convention in Houston, where you are right now, just a few days after the massacre in Uvalde. We saw Donald Trump dancing on stage at the end of his remarks.
He was not. I was there. He was not dancing.
How is any of this at all appropriate? We're showing it on stage right now. He's doing a little jig there. People are waving their NRA hats and so on. It's this celebratory atmosphere right after a mass shooting where all of these kids are gunned down. How is that appropriate?
I think that what you're doing is just telling part of the story there, because at the beginning of his speech, he did do a very memorable memorial for the victim.
So first he says Trump didn't dance. And then when the video gets put on the screen, he says, well, the dancing is only part of the story. But you just said he didn't dance. So which is it? These people are really sick, really, really sick. They are not a scourge, as Trump pronounces it, but they are really a scourge. And we're going to look at what happened at the NRA convention after the break, but we've got an uphill battle here, my friends. I do want to announce we are going to be doing our next David Pakman Show member town hall on June 14th at 6 p.m. Eastern. It'll be streamed on the Pakman Live YouTube channel only, and I hope you'll join me there. One of our sponsors is Toodaloo, the plant-based trail mix that's delicious and climate conscious. It's hard for me to pick my favorite thing about Toodaloo. The sweet and savory flavors are great. Toodaloo regenerates 100 square feet of polluted farmland with every purchase and gives to causes that are fighting plastic pollution. Every bag has 35 grams of plant-based proteins. There's no refined oil or processed sugars or artificial flavors. The stuff I try to avoid, it's not in there. You can pronounce all of the ingredients. I've been snacking on Toodaloo regularly at home while I'm working. My favorite flavor is the spicy citrus, raw nuts, pumpkin and flower seeds, apple, pineapple, chickpeas with a spicy lemon lime kick. You can also get barbecue, chocolate clusters, coffee. One of my favorites is maple brittle. Listen, guys, my roots are in New England. Of course, maple. It's delicious. No ingredients to feel guilty about. It's just a great snack, and it's a company that's doing good things for the planet, and they support our show. So go to toodaloo.com/Pakman. Use the code Pakman for $5 off. The link is down below.